what you're talking about, just kind of the...
Welcome to We Question and Learn, now celebrating our 20th year on the air here at WQLN FM 91.3. We're on WQLN.org, NPR1, and right now I keep saying a dozen other podcast venues, but I'm discovering that sometimes those proliferate into sub-podcast venues, so we're probably on about 15 of those across wherever the internet goes. Today, I have a very, very special guest. I'm really pleased to have the replacement for David Callahan. I shouldn't have said replacement. The successor to David Callahan, who's been on the program for a couple of years, and as you folks may remember, he is or was part of the Marcellus Shale Coalition. And right now, I have Jim Welty. And Jim, you started your career as the executive director. Is that the correct title?
It's president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition, but I've been with the coalition since 2013, previously held the position of vice president of government affairs.
Wonderful. I was teasing Dave that some of the websites make him executive director, some make him president, but you were the vice president of government affairs, and now you are the president. For folks that missed the prior interviews, Jim, could you give us a brief outline of what your organization does and what your mission and vision is?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Tom, and really appreciate this opportunity. I think it's important that we continue to educate on what's going on with respect to natural gas development in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and countrywide because it's so critical to our economy these days. So the Marcellus Shale Coalition, we are the statewide trade association that represents the unconventional natural gas development. That's what's going on with pulling gas out of the shale seams under our feet here in the Appalachian Basin. So the Marcellus Shale seam underlies New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and a little bit of Kentucky. And the MSC, the Marcellus Shale Coalition, is focused on what's going on here in Pennsylvania. So we represent the upstream companies doing business. Those are the ones that are drilling, that are exploring where's best to drill, and then drilling and producing the gas, pulling the gas out of the ground. The midstream companies, which are really processing that gas and sending that gas to market, most likely over pipelines. And then the downstream side as well, those that are utilizing gas. So think of power generation, natural gas power plants, for example, or large manufacturers. So that's really what makes up the MSC, but we also have a lot of the supply and service chain that work with those upstream, midstream, and downstream companies. So think of the engineering firms, the law firms, the trucking firms, even the trade labor that is doing business with our companies. All those are also members of the MSC. So it's a big swath. We represent, I would say our economic analysis, about 123,000 jobs that we support here in the Commonwealth. And in just 1 year alone, in 2022, about $41 billion in economic development in the Commonwealth, which is about 5% of the Commonwealth's entire GDP.
That's
so
incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Forgive me for interrupting you. That's just an outstanding amount of money. Did that grow over a period of time? Sorry to interrupt you, but that number is so huge. Is that something that's been going on for a number of years, or did it grow, say, over a period of 20 years? How did that number come about?
Yeah, it's a great question, Tom. And I know my predecessor, Dave Callahan, who I know I have big shoes to fill. He was a great leader for our organization, a great spokesperson. And, we've all talked about this, just the advent of the Marcellus development in unconventional shale development really began in about 2005 with the drilling of the first well in southwestern Pennsylvania. And we've seen our production of natural gas grow from, at that time, what was about 20% of our own consumption of natural gas in Pennsylvania to nearly 20% of the entire country's production of natural gas. So we are, in Pennsylvania, the second largest natural gas producer in the country. And that growth has occurred in just those 20 years. So that economic impact we've seen in local communities, in businesses, and in the state government itself with the tax revenues that have been developed. And, using that 2022 benchmark, our companies remitted over $6 billion in federal, state, and local taxes. So there's significant upside. It's that rising tide lifts all boats mentality. The onset and the development of the Marcellus over those years has helped contribute to the economic vitality of the Commonwealth.
Spent a lot of years down in Oil City, the Drake Well Museum. This oil industry concept, going way back, as you probably know from the history of oil drilling, is extremely interesting. So if I could ask, the reason you're here, the reason this is working is there are natural, geologic, forgive me for not being technically correct, resources in this area, let's say from Bradford all the way down to Pittsburgh back. How much of this affects, say, Northwest Pennsylvania?
Yeah, there's significant overlap with Northwest Pennsylvania. I would say that the Marcellus Shale seam factually underlies northeastern Pennsylvania, goes down through north central, northwestern Pennsylvania, and down into southwestern Pennsylvania and into the surrounding states. So there is significant opportunity in northwestern Pennsylvania. And we see most of the development occurring right now in northeastern and southwestern PA, in part because the economy kind of drives us there. The cost of the product, what you hear, the Henry Hub pricing of natural gas, has been relatively low. In fact, we've been at historic lows. So there hasn't been a lot of expansion into the Northwest yet. But should that pricing, and when that pricing comes up, that's the enticement for capital that's needed to begin to drill new wells, particularly outside of that Northeast and Southwest. And that targeted area would be Northwest. So, significant opportunity. We do, of the 67 counties in Pennsylvania, we are producing out of 36 of them, and many of those are in the Northwest.
I was looking at a chart. Now, forgive me, the chart's something that I reviewed about a couple of years ago, but I wish I had this booted up or I could find it. The number of major corporations that are involved with your organization, it astounded me. This wasn't just a small organization. My gosh, CNX, Energy Transfer. Boy, I'm not probably naming the largest. National Fuel, which we have a lot of dealings with in our organization. This is Seneca Resources. This is supported by some very, very large companies. Could you describe what their interest is?
Yeah, great question. And the MSC's membership, the companies that you just listed, was representative of a really good swath of who our members are, represent about 95% of the gas that's being produced, processed, and transported in Pennsylvania. So chances are, if you're doing business in, the Marcellus and Utica shale seams, Utica is a shale seam that underlies the Marcellus, which also has natural gas resources. Chances are, if the gas is being produced by a company, that company is a member of the MSC. And our members are anything from private companies to publicly traded companies and everything in between. Private PE-backed companies, joint ventures. So we have a whole swath of our membership that represents kind of the economic value chain that we see in capital market today.
I see. I mentioned National Fuel, Penn Energy. Their interest is in helping develop this resource, and your responsibility is to let folks know how this works, why this is happening. What caused this? Who discovered that this was, and I'm going to say of late, not as far back as the original Drake Well, let's say, who discovered why this is important? Who discovered why this works?
Yeah, so the natural gas we've known has been down there we've known for over a century that there's opportunity and resources. That's why the original well on the oil side was drilled in Titusville, Pennsylvania. In those pockets of oil, bringing up for energy purposes back then. And we've been fracking wells for well over a century in various different forms. So we also know that these geological formations, the Marcellus shale seam, the Utica shale seam, contain gas, but we didn't have the technology to go down and extract that, and the technology that was economically feasible. And it was early in the 2000s that the technologies were developed that you could actually drill down and then turn a drill bit. So you drill down vertically, turn that drill bit horizontally, and then go out. At that time, we were going out about a mile. Today, those drill bits are going out anywhere from 3 to 4 miles. And then you go into the shale seam, which can be only, a couple hundred feet deep, thick. But we have the technology to go down, drill across, and then crack that rock where it releases that gas. And that gas then travels back up through that wellbore. And that's what we call the production of the natural gas, producing it, getting it out of the ground. So we've known it's been down there for a very long time, but the technology to access it hasn't come about until the last couple decades.
Once you get it out, how do you process it? Where does it go?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when the gas comes out of the ground, you got to take out the impurities. We have kind of two different shale plays in Pennsylvania. We've got what's kind of considered a dry gas play in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is almost when it comes out of the ground. Once you take out some of the liquids, you can put that right into a pipeline, and it can go right into a house to fuel a house. And then we have the wet gas play in southwestern Pennsylvania, where there are liquids that come out with it, and liquids that are typically the base to our hydrocarbons that we use in products every day. So think of isobutane, butane, propane, ethane. All those are chemical feedstocks to a lot of what we utilize today. So when the gas comes out of the ground, you take out those liquids and those byproducts, and you ship them off to get processed and broken out. And then the gas is removed directly so that it goes into the pipeline and then can go to the markets downstream. And whether those markets be, as I said earlier, power generation, manufacturing, LNG facilities, which is liquefied natural gas facilities that take that gas and liquefy it to send it overseas. That's what gets put into the pipeline. So it has to be processed once it comes out of the ground so that it can get into that pure methane that goes off into the opportunities downstream.
This may be a tough question. How big an industry is this? It's billions, I'm guessing. It's a number that you probably have some handle on, but it is. I see over 100 associate members here. These people are all involved in this industry. This is huge. How could I convey, or how can you convey for me the size of this industry, say in millions of dollars or billions of dollars? Do you have any numbers?
Yeah. So in Pennsylvania alone, we support 123,000 jobs across the Commonwealth, and you see that in the upstream, midstream, and the supply chain that make up of our membership. In 2022 alone, when we did our economic analysis, $41 billion in economic impact and economic accountability to Pennsylvania, or about 5% of our total GDP here in Pennsylvania. The average wage of our employees, so we employ everything from GED to PhDs. The average wage is $97,000 a year, which is about 115% of Pennsylvania's median income. So the impact is significant. And when you think of Pennsylvania, we're about 20% of that total production of gas in the country. So you can take those numbers and multiply them exponentially for the country.
Talk about how you maintain and monitor environmental issues. This is not a biting question. This is a logistical question. Obviously, you don't do this without a lot of concern, maybe even some moderation from the government, folks keeping an eye on you, so to speak. What are your activities in this area to maintain this as a viable environmental industry?
Yeah, that's a great point, and thanks for allowing me to make it. We really, from an organizational standpoint, our best interest is to ensure that we are producing the gas in the most efficient and environmentally friendly manner. And we continue to make improvements along those lines every year from a technological perspective. So the MSC itself is made up of any number of technical committees that are made up of experts in those various fields. So, for example, air quality. We have an air quality committee that is made up of professionals that deal just with those type of issues. We have a drilling and completions committee that deals with what happens when we stick the bit in the ground and drill down. Those technical experts all come together to talk about best management practices, to learn about new technologies and doing it more efficiently and environmentally friendly, but also talk about how we need to comply and abide by the laws and regulations under which we operate here in Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania has some of the most stringent regulatory structure under which any gas company operates in the country. We've got over 43 laws, about 28 permit authorizations, dozens of technical guidance documents under which we have to comply. So these committees, this committee structure that the MSC has, really looks at what those laws and regulations are and makes sure that we are complying to the best of our ability, and to elevate that bar under which we operate, so that we aren't just complying to the regulations, we're going above and beyond where we can. So that's a huge component of what we do. And I think the proof is in the pudding. In that, if you look at the impact that we're having on the environment, it is very positive. Think about, there's something called methane intensity, Tom, and that methane intensity is the measurement of how much gas might be lost from production, from what we call wellhead to burner tip. Third parties have looked at that methane intensity, how much is lost in the Appalachian Basin, and found that the Appalachian Basin has some of the lowest methane intensity in the world. So the U.S. has one of the lowest methane intensity, one of the lowest methane intensities in the globe. But the Appalachian Basin, of all the shale plays in the United States, has the lowest of all of them. And that is attributable to the hard work that our operators do to make sure we are doing this as cleanly and efficiently as possible. And that's the example that I kind of hold out to show you we are doing it better than almost anywhere else in the world.
Let's talk about money. $2.7 billion generated since 2012. The Pennsylvania Natural Gas Impact Fee. That, in parentheses, says tax. You folks are paying an incredible amount of money in order to exercise your industry. Could you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had mentioned that we paid, our economic analysis shows that we paid, and these are straight numbers, over $6 billion in 2022 alone in federal, state, and local taxes. That's because we pay corporate net income taxes, personal income taxes, all the sales taxes that are required at the state and federal level. And then on top of that, we pay what's called the impact fee that you just alluded to. So this is very different in Pennsylvania. So, for example, you compare us to Texas. Texas doesn't have a corporate net income tax. Texas doesn't have a personal income tax. And Texas is the largest gas producer in the country, and we're second. So we pay the corporate, the personal income tax, sales taxes, and then on top of that, an impact fee, which really is a tax that's designed to go back into the communities in which we operate, heavily back into the communities in which we operate. But there's not one county in Pennsylvania that does not receive revenues from the impact fee. So even Philadelphia, which does not overlie the Marcellus, they are receiving dollars from the impact fee for programs, for environmental programs, conservation programs, local transportation initiatives. Those dollars are dispersed throughout the Commonwealth, but heavily focused on those communities in which we're operating. And we're proud of that. We're happy to pay that impact fee because it helps those communities in which we're operating with their budgets. So they see the value of what it means for natural gas operators to be operated in their local regions.
I'm looking at a nice page here. $96 million for local government, $64 million for statewide environmental programs, $20 million to a state agency for oversight, et cetera. And that's roads, bridges, parks, emergency service, environmental conservation. You must have quite a chart on the wall in your office showing you where the money goes.
Yeah,
it's impressive, actually.
Yeah, the beauty about how this was set up, when it was created in 2012, the impact fee, It was set up to ensure that certain components got revenues from the industry. The numbers you're citing is just 2023 numbers. So multiply that over the 12 years, you see a significant increase. But you said it, roads, bridges, parks, emergency services, conservation programs, all those benefit from the natural gas tax revenues under the impact fee.
It's an incredible amount of money. Do you meet resistance from the press or the community? And that's not a biting question. That's an opportunity to maybe explain why this is so effective environmentally or even socially or tax-wise for communities.
Yeah, so there is a very concerted effort to eliminate fossil fuel production in our country. But really, when everything we touch, use, look at every day, its chemical base is from fossil fuels. You can't eliminate fossil fuels unless you want to go back to living in grass huts. And you can't run a full-time economy off part-time energy. And natural gas gives us that full-time energy source that we need. And because it's so prolific in Pennsylvania, it's a great opportunity to ensure that we're driving money into our economies and we're powering our economies moving forward. So we've seen, for example, in Pennsylvania, in 2005, the portfolio of electricity that was generated, natural gas only made about 5% of that entire portfolio of electricity being generated. Today, nearly 60% of our electricity is generated by natural gas in Pennsylvania. It's why Pennsylvania has become the #1 exporter of electricity. So these are significant opportunities that we're taking advantage of, that we don't want to lose taking advantage of, because there are those that think that we can have an economy that is based not off of petroleum and natural gas, but off of just renewable energy sources. And I'll say this, Tom, we are an all-the-above organization. We believe there's room at the table for all energy sources. We believe, however, in the data and facts demonstrate that because we're sitting on one of the largest natural gas deposits in the world, we need to be utilizing this to drive our economy and drive where we're going with respect to our powering our homes, powering our businesses, powering our manufacturing facilities. So this is a great opportunity for the communities. It's a great opportunity for our American energy security. And that's what we're all about, is driving that message. And we're willing to work with all partners. Look, our operators live and work in the communities in which they're operating. So they have every reason to be ensuring that we're doing this in the most effective and efficient manner and most environmentally friendly manner. And go ahead.
No, you're doing an excellent job. Please continue your sentence.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and look, our employees are conservationists, they're hunters, they're fishers, they're fishermen, and they have every reason to make sure that what they do every day in their jobs, they're doing it to the best of their ability. They're raising the bar on how we do it, and they're excited about it because they're excited about what it means for Pennsylvania and what it means for our country.
I was online and I saw a story, and I'm going to express that the resource looked pretty good. That Bill Gates was going to buy the last functional, although not used for 20 years, 3 Mile Island power plant. And I guess what I thought, well, he wouldn't spend billions of dollars unless the technology has improved so dramatically that it would be okay to do that. Now let's go over to oil. I have to believe that you have research partners, universities, environmental specialists, engineers that are constantly working on the safety and distribution of natural gas?
Absolutely. It's that supply chain that I talked about. And it involves every aspect of the development, and we focus on ensuring that we're doing it environmentally friendly, efficiently, and to your point, in the safest manner possible. We have a health and safety committee here at the MSC where they focus on those type of issues, safety and health issues, to ensure that what we're doing it, we're raising that bar and how we're operating. So yes, we work across all those aspects of the supply chain to ensure that we've got a product that's produced that we're proud of producing in the most safe, efficient manner possible.
I've got to say, I just discovered the speaker lineup for the 2024 Erie, Pennsylvania Shale Insight event. Is that going to happen again in this 2025 year?
It sure is, and we are getting excited about putting together a great program again this year. It's going to be held on September 16th through the 18th up in Erie, Pennsylvania, Bayfront Convention Center again. It is a beautiful venue sitting on the shores of Lake Erie, which really allows us to bring in people from all over the globe to participate in this event. And, we've got countries from Europe, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, I should say, Europe, Japan was there last year, and then all of North America. We've got folks coming in to talk about, one, the incredible technologies that are developing in the industry, to talk about best practices within the industry, to share business plans and what the view of their energy perspective from the various different operators. We get many CEOs coming in to talk about what their business plans are, what they're seeing for the future. So we're going to be doing that again this year up in the shores of Lake Erie, and we're excited to be having that conference again in Pennsylvania.
I just looked at the speaker list from last year. Everyone has an incredible resume. I'm not saying this to brag about the event. I'm just looking at these resumes. You had 40 speakers. Was there enough time to get them all on? How does the venue work? These are highly skilled, professional. Oh, and even some state senators who come all the way to Erie to speak in front of, how many people were there last year?
Yeah, we've had between 800 and 900 people attend our conference last year. And we've got a main stage where it's a general plenary session where folks come in. Typically, the CEOs get up and speak there, or big-name speakers speak there. We have breakout sessions where we focus in on various technical issues or policy issues that the industry is wrestling with or dealing with. So we'll do about a dozen breakout sessions. So you get to that big number of speakers because you've got the plenary session and then you got the breakout sessions. And then there's a lot of opportunities for networking within the industry. You're meeting the supply chain and new technologies in our vendor hall. You're meeting your peers and your colleagues from across the country and the globe, and you have a lot of opportunity for engagement there as well.
In the last moment or two, where do you see all this going? Is this a flash in the pan over a couple of decades? Does this wear out, or does it exhaust itself? What does this look like for the next, say, 10 or 20 years?
Yeah, the opportunities are endless, quite frankly. We just need to make sure that the policies that are developed around energy are allow for the continued development of natural gas, and that's part of why the MSC was formed, was to look at those policies and ensure that we're meeting the needs of our economy, not just here in Pennsylvania, but across the country. And this isn't a flash in the pan. This is a long-term development that's going to ensure America's energy security. The numbers bear that out. We produced 7.5 trillion cubic feet of natural gas last year. That's enough power to heat 115 million homes in 1 year coming out of Pennsylvania. So the opportunities are tremendous for the next 10, 20, 50 years. And we just need to ensure that the policies allow for that continued development. And
the science supports your career, everyone else's career, and the safety of our environment, and of course the people that live here. Indeed. Oh, what a great opportunity to chat with you. I hope I wasn't too biting in some regards. You may get a couple of phone calls asking you about this, that, and the other thing, but I think as a whole, it would be interesting if someone, is this a conference coming up in September open to the public, or do you need an invitation? How does it work?
Yeah, we have member rates and non-member rates. So non-members, which can be open to the public, are welcome to come. I would drive them to our website, marcelluscoalition.org, and you can see a sign up for our conference on that website. You can also find a lot of information about our industry, some of which I touched on today, others that go into the specifics of how we operate, and a lot of factual information you can find on our website. So I would just encourage the public to go there to learn more about our industry. And if they want to come up to the conference, all takers are welcome.
Boy, you really have a good handle on this since you've only been working since January. I'm teasing you. The many years that you've spent there and your background and your knowledge is evident. Thank you so much for taking a half hour out of your time. Hope we can have you back again, maybe closer to September or subsequent, so we can see how the conference went. And in gratitude, thank you. Thank you very much, James Welty, for being a guest on the program today.
Tom, thank you very much. I always appreciate the opportunity and always willing to come back whenever you'd like.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pies. We're celebrating our 20th year on the air. And an old friend and a good friend is my guest today, Trenton Moulin, President and CEO of the Bridge Builders Community Foundations. And greetings. I hope things are well in Oil City.
Things are well, Tom, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, we haven't had you on in a long time, and I would like to be able to educate our far afield listeners as to exactly what the Bridge Builders Community Foundations, and I use the correct term, plural, foundations, what it is, how it's organized, and where are you officially located now?
Well, the Community Foundation originally was called the Venango Area Community Foundation, and the Venango Area Community Foundation was, of course, centric on Venango County. And in 2006, 2007, the other counties, there were individuals in Clarion, there were individuals in Forest County that wanted to be a part of it, and this happened more and more. And so the leadership at the time decided to rebrand and change its name to Bridge Builders Community Foundations, and it incorporates a structure of affiliates, which folds in Venango County, Forest County, and Clarion County. And they changed the name to Bridge Builders Community Foundations, and it's the connection between donors who want to impact their community and the causes that are meaningful to them and making the community a better place.
Well, your service to the organization is probably around 10 and a half years?
I'm closer to 15 now, Tom.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have to see. We've been talking for so long. I was making you a younger person. How about that? Let's cover that up that way.
Well, I need all the help I can get there. There's a lot more gray in my beard now than when I started 14 and a half years ago. 15
years. So I had 1 0 too many at 10 and a half and the decimal point in the wrong place. But that's an incredible tenure. You started out, I believe, with just a couple of $1 million when you first took the position. Am I close?
Yeah, we were around $5 million when I started. Yep.
Okay, yeah. And today the foundation has grown dramatically. What is the total today?
Well, as of today, I'm not quite sure, but as of the last book close in January, I think we were pushing around 22 million.
That's fantastic. That's outstanding. Now, so if people understand, you're in Oil City, PA, Venango County, basically. What is the history of that area? And you and I know what it is. It starts with the oil industry.
So oil, of course, it's in the name, and we actually moved our headquarters to Franklin last year. Mm-hmm. And you got to come visit that sometime, Tom.
I will.
But not only with the oil history, but also the philanthropic history, and those go hand in hand.
Right.
And there's a culture of philanthropy here. Many people have given so much that wanted to make their area a better place, both 100 years ago and recently. And it's just a culture that really we try to lean into because there's so many people here that want to make their community a better place. And that could be through helping kids learn about the trades. That could be helping through scholarship and so many other avenues to make our area a well-rounded place to live, learn, work, and play.
you were involved with the Oil City Civic Center for quite a while. Could you explain what that is? And I'm going to throw in two words, the transit building. And that's one of my favorite places to visit. Your office was there at one time. That's a historical building, not only for Oil City in our region, but I would consider it important nationally. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I know this is a passion project for you. You really appreciate it, but it is a gem in the area, and it's the National Transit Company was a subsidiary of Standard Oil, Rockefeller's empire, and it was in charge of all the transportation of oil and gas. And the National Transit Building was converted to a nonprofit in the late 90s, and it was meant to give back to the community in a few ways. And the first one was to preserve the building. The second one was to provide a space for nonprofits to be able to get started, or to have affordable rent space and that type of thing. And then also give back culturally. And there's spaces for that too. So it's taking an old Standard Oil building and multi-purposing that into something that's going to give back for generations to come.
Well, I know there are a lot of history buffs, not only in your area, but all over the country that have followed the oil industry. And I'll bet you a lot of them know about that building and Mr. Rockefeller and that whole story. Let's get more centralized now. How do you manage the organization? I don't think you have a big staff, do you?
No, we're pretty lean and mean. I have a director of finance. Her name's Lauren. She keeps the numbers going and everything balances to the penny. And I have Tessa, and she kind of helps me keep my head on straight. But also she's leaning more into taking a leadership role around our grants and scholarships that we give out every year. And we're excited to have them. Lauren's been with me for 12 years, and Tessa's pushing probably 2 now. So I couldn't do it without my team, and I appreciate them probably more than I should normally say.
That's good. So. Something is coming up, and I feel very fortunate to have you, and this will be broadcast in time for a very, very important anniversary. Could you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be working here at the Community Foundation during our 50th anniversary. And the 50th is our golden anniversary, and we are humbled and excited to be standing on the shoulders of so many volunteer leaders, board members, and donors. And we want to honor them by not only reflecting on where we've been, but also where we're going in the next 50 years. And we're excited about all the events and commemorations throughout this year.
I know you can't answer remembering when it started, but with that said, the history probably is on your desk someplace, and you probably have studied it. What caused the foundation to be founded? How did it come about would be a better question.
Right. There was he was an attorney, Mr. McFate, here in Oil City, and he really led the charge. And I've heard a lot about it, but I don't have a direct, or what shall I say? I didn't have the privilege to be able to talk to him, but I sit at his desk where the Articles of Incorporation were signed. Oh, wow. And he wanted to create a foundation with other bankers and other attorneys and trust officers for anybody to be a philanthropist and to be able to give back to the community. And he got other pillars of the community. They created the board. It was a cross-section of all of Venango County, and established the Community Foundation as the Venango Area Community Foundation on April 30th of 1975. And it was really taking the model that was started in Cleveland prior to that, and wanted to create that community chest where anybody could be a philanthropist, and large donations or small donations. And we're continuing that vision today. So, and it's an advocacy organization along with a philanthropic and grant-making organization also.
Now let's explain foundations again. Now, we're well aware of the Erie Community Foundation. I've taken many opportunities with the wonderful people there to explain how it works. And it's sort of interesting because sometimes people feel that you're a fundraising charity, but that's not quite how it works. Can you explain your business model and how it really works inside your communities?
Yeah, so we're at the crossroads of donors and giving back to the community. Mm-hmm. And I put everything into 3 buckets. Mm-hmm. My brain works like a Connect Four slot, right? So I have to put everything into its position. And the first one is working with donors who have a desire to help their community in some way. And so we sit down, we work with the donors, we set up gifts. And those are traditionally planned gifts. That could be at your passing, at a sale of a business or other taxable event. And we work with them to carry out the wishes of their charitable wishes, right? We then, traditionally, we invest those monies. The proceeds from those endowed assets, we give out in grants and according to the donor's wishes. And what we do is then we try to connect the donor to the causes that matter to them. And then there's a third, so there's the money in aspect, mm-hmm. there's the grant aspect, mm-hmm. and then there's the community advocacy. We're a neutral advocate for the community. Mm-hmm. We want to help connect people. We want to help nonprofits work better together. We want them to collaborate and work on causes that are have been identified in our community that will really make that that will really impact the community for generations to come.
Do you have several types of funds? Let me ask, do you have a donor-advised fund, for example, or funds, plural?
Yes. Yep. So we have donor-advised funds. Those are funds that allow individuals to retain certain advisory rights, so they can make a gift, and then they can advise us on how they would like those grants to be made at a future time. Mm-hmm. We also have funds that are designated, and those funds, the individual would like to say, I want to support these nonprofits in this church, mm-hmm. Or any, but they set that up on the front end, right? Mm-hmm. Those are called donor designated funds. I know I'm getting a little wonky.
No. This is perfect because I think people get confused. They think it's just one pot of money and you're doling it out. But these are well-directed desires that are being taken care of by you for the donor.
Right. And we have other funds where, say, an individual is very passionate about literacy, mm-hmm. right? And they want to help out reading initiatives, but they're not quite sure, and we're not quite sure how that's going to look in 50 years, right? Yeah. So they set up a fund that supports literacy, and then we accept applications around that field, which is called a field of interest, right? Mm-hmm. And then we grant monies out to those nonprofits and those programs and projects that are helping literacy in the community. And so they can be very specific in their donor intentions. They could be very broad, and they could be, I just want to help out the community, and wherever you deem, wherever the Community Foundation deems the most necessary. And we look at data around that. We look at other community needs, all kinds of stuff to determine where those priority needs are at that time. So a donor can be very specific, very broad, and we help them with that and just kind of discovering what they would like to do and be the most impactful in giving back and reflecting their wishes.
And then would there be a general fund where someone just feels passionate about the Bridge Builders Community Foundations and trusts your direction as to how to distribute the money?
Yes, and we're those are called we have one of those for each of our counties that we serve. And it's kind of bland sounding. I'd like to change that, but it's the Venango County Unrestricted Fund. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Clarion County Unrestricted Fund and the Forest County Unrestricted Fund. But I'd like to expand that or kind of rebrand that.
Yeah.
But that allows us to meet those pressing needs after we collect data, talk to community members, talk to other nonprofit leaders, and try to be the most impactful with those monies as we can.
Now, say someone has passed away 100 years ago and has left a fund. It's sort of moved into your realm because of a nephew, a niece, a granddaughter. Some family line has moved that money to you. And you mentioned this a little while ago. life changes, technology changes. How do you administer that? Do you have to go back to the folks? What if the folks aren't even there to speak to? So how do you actually determine what's the best way to make that money beneficial to the community?
Well, we take that very seriously, and that's called honoring donor intent, and that's paramount in all that we do. And so what we try to do is we look at the communications between the donor. We have a fund agreement that usually specifies what those intentions were, and try to understand the spirit of the gift and carry out those wishes accordingly. And there's different ways with different documents in place, but really the overarching goal is to honor that donor intention and try to understand what they would try to do if they were in the modern world today.
Boy, that's not going to be easy, is it?
Not all the time. And what I try to do when I'm working with a donor is try to set up a vehicle and have the communications and the understanding so that the person 50 years from now can look back at the documents that we put in place now, and they can have a good idea of what that donor was intending to do in the community, and make those choices accordingly 50 years from now.
How are you going to celebrate your 50th? Is there a dinner, or is it just the board getting together, or will you have a community outreach session of some sort?
So the official day is April 30th, and we're going to be kicking off a year of celebrations and commemorations starting April 30th, and that's going to be a press conference at our office. It'll be in the afternoon. We'll be putting out the official invite and announcement soon. But that's the official day that the Articles of Incorporation were signed 50 years ago. After April 30th, we're going to be announcing and distributing. We have a book that has been written. It's a history. I want to thank Laura Reisner-Jones for that. She went through our archives and wrote a 50-year history for posterity, and I can't thank her enough. And then also, we're going to be having a public art piece. We have a committee that's working on a public art piece that'll commemorate our 50th. And I'm going to let the artistic and creative types figure out what that's going to look like. The power of art is something that I've really come to appreciate in the last few years. And then we're also going to have a gala on September 27th, and that'll be held at Cross Creek. And we got some great announcements around that we're going to be building up as we go. And but it's just going to be a time of past reflection, but also looking at our future direction. So,
can I ask about your board? Is it a large board? Obviously, it's a community-centered board. How does that work? Your board active, passive? Do they moderate you? As you know, boards are different in different organizations, as you can recall from your history out in the real world, so to speak. How does your board function relative to the Bridge Builders Community Foundations?
Well, as the Community Foundation has evolved, so has the board. When I first started, I had a very active board in all aspects. But as the Community Foundation has grown, the role has evolved into a governance and fundraising board. And there's a robust committee structure. We have a wonderful grants committee. We also have a robust finance committee because of the financial aspects of the Community Foundation. Those assets make our programs, grants and scholarships possible. And so we have a wonderful governance committee. We also have affiliate committees that oversee the committee or the affiliate activities in each of our counties. So there's a lot of individuals throughout. I can't thank my board enough. They, set the large picture, work through, the big choices that we have, and it's a very diverse, a good cross section of the community, and we work well together, and they've evolved as we've evolved, and it's just I think back 15 years ago, and it's definitely a different type of governance structure. But I think there's a lot of wise and knowledgeable people around the table, and I appreciate them every day.
As you consider giving out grants, you must have a procedure. How does that work inside the Bridge Builders Community Foundations?
Yeah, we we have a very robust volunteer review process. And every year it's a whole grant cycle. And individuals that serve on that have to, have an understanding of what the needs are in the community. They have to be able to spend a lot of time reviewing the applications that come in. And then after they do the online review, we all get together for what we call a coffee and donuts meeting. And then we talk about what those needs are, what we're trying to do, what values we're looking at as far as we approach this, so that we're all kind of looking at it through the same lens. Then the committees make their recommendations. Those are all bundled up in collaboration with the staff, and we vet those to make sure that they're nonprofits and charitable activities, et cetera. And then we bundle all that up, and then it goes in front of the fiduciary board for final review and approval. And so there's a really robust volunteer-led review process, and then we evaluate the whole process, and then we start again. So we were recently just part of the Appalachian Regional Commission's called ARC Ready program. And Tessa and I in my office, we went through a cohort that was centered around grant making. And we're looking to implement a lot of the items that we learned about grant making into that process. So that'll be this summer.
That's a challenge. This may be a easy or difficult question. Do you work with consultants? Do you have folks come in and help you on occasion or even on a regular basis?
We do. We work with consultants on a number of levels. The one that jumps into mind first is we do needs assessments around certain topics. So what we do is we get kind of a community scan, and we have data collection around those community needs, and then we have those bundled up into a white paper, and then that grant committee actually looks at those needs assessments, and then we can have better informed grant making and that type of thing. We also work with HR consultants, sometimes investment consultants about centered around the endowment investments and that type of thing.
As you look back at the entire history of your community, is there archival money? Boy, that's a tough question. When I say that, are there old families? Are there old companies? And I'm reaching here. I'm thinking a lot about the oil industry. Does that affect you still today in the 21st century?
We work a lot with funders that are from generations ago, not only in our shop, but also outside. Oh. And so those older charitable trusts, we work closely with them to coordinate funding. We're kind of we're all in this together. We're trying to make our area a better place. So it's related to that, but really, as I said earlier, there's that culture of philanthropy. And so we work with all those entities that are trying to make their community a better place. And some of that is those older charitable trusts and what have you, that was, I don't know the details on all of them, but I'm sure some of them had that connection with the oil money and that type of thing.
Yeah. So time goes by quickly, and 100 years goes by really, really quickly as you look back at the history of your region. As you look around the community today, what are your largest needs? Or let's ask a better question. What do your donors feel are the largest needs around Venango, Clarion, and Forest?
We try to work together with the donors on that because of those community scans, and we want to make sure our assumptions are based off of data, right?
Right.
And so, I think, one of our largest funds now is centered around the trades. And, and this donor, her name was Elizabeth. She wanted individuals that work with their hands to be supported. And we're carrying out those wishes, whether that be carpentry, electrician, apprenticeships, all those type of, and it's so needed. And actually the data shows that. And if you've tried to get a contractor lately, you probably see that individually too. So she wanted to support that. We're looking at creative ways of assisting with that through Pitt Titusville, other welding apprenticeship programs based out of Venango County here. And we want to help out those workforce needs that have been demonstrated in the data, but also what we see every day in the community and working with business leaders and that type of thing.
So do younger folks, and I'm going to quantify those as, say, 20 to 40, maybe 30 to 50, do younger folks have a different appreciation, say, for a community foundation? Or do you have to constantly educate folks as to the value, and we know there is a value, as to the value of bridge builders?
Well, that's a good question, Tom.
Yeah, I threw you off.
As I get older, I'm pushing 50, and I'm a lot more removed from those younger generations. And we talk to our marketing firm and what have you, and there's definitely a different voice. But we're also trying to reach out to them so that they understand that benefit, because not only are they donors now, but they're going to be those individuals thinking about a planned gift later. And so how do we communicate? And,
yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
As I get older, it's just, I get more and more removed, but that's why we have, a good diverse leadership group here in the office, and really lean on them for their takes. And,
I didn't want to ask a more pointed question, but I get the feeling that generationally, and I'm going to say 40 and under, maybe 30 and under, it's a different world. This concept of leaving a legacy is a tough row to hoe. Some of these kids are carrying $100,000 or more in collegiate debt, even at the age of 35, or they can't get a mortgage. I've heard stories about that. I've just wondered if you have felt that effect on the Bridge Builders Community Foundations.
Well, from my, limited perspective on this, and it's something I'm leaning more into to learn about, in that they want to be involved not only philanthropically, but also volunteering-wise. They want to be engaged and see the power of their gift in different ways, right? And I'm closer to you, Tom, than some of these individuals. So, I'm kind of, I would rather lean in on my staff here and talk to them. But, every generation is different. And we want to make sure that the Community Foundation is addressing each of those generations accordingly, not only for the philanthropic sense, but also how do we give back and how do we help cultivate a community that's better for all the generations, not just one.
I'm going to make you feel a little better. I'm probably as far away from you as you are from the generation that I'm trying to talk about. So I know we'll leave it at that. We won't. You revealed your age. I'll leave mine alone. But I was thinking about those 30 to 35-year-olds. Let's call it even 40. Say 25 years younger than you. 25 coming out of college. I'm guessing that you are trying to do some planning, but it's very, very difficult to understand what their philanthropic needs are. It's a tough row to hoe. Let me ask you, how do people get in touch with you? Let's say they heard a couple of things here today and have generated some questions in their mind. Maybe they just want to chat with you, and maybe there's someone who has some good advice for you. How do they find you?
I would encourage everybody to go to our website. That's our front door anymore. That's at bbcf.org. That's for Bridge Builders Community Foundations, bbcf.org. Our office number is 814-677-8687. And we're always, feel free to drop by our office. It's an old Victorian in Franklin, PA.
Yeah.
Be glad to have you. But I would say online, and then we have all our social media channels that you can look up also. And we're pretty active on there to get the word out about our grants and scholarships and what have you.
And it's a wonderful historic place to visit. You have some great museums and some great history that people can enjoy and learn a lot about. Just the world in general. The three-letter word, oil. How about that? I'm looking at your news page. I can't tell you how impressive it is that you have so many things going on. Trenton Moulin, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate the time.